Is there a team that you feel can benefit from the rainout? I know, we talked about that at length during the NLCS, and everyone said, well, it'll help out the Mets because Glavine won't have to pitch on short rest, and he didn't even make it out of the fifth inning. Is there a definitive advantage that can be given one way or another?
Well,
in this
definitely
situation?
not in this postseason. I mean, nothing has gone the way we thought. Who thought we would be talking about who do you want to start in Game 5, whether it be Weaver or Reyes? I mean, that isn't the conversation you weren't even going to have 5 days ago. So
who would have thought Weaver and Reyes would be here?
Yeah, exactly, and potentially pitching in some really big games if somehow Detroit manages to win and the series goes 2-2. So I don't see an advantage either way, to be honest with you. It's not like anybody's gaining any extra rest that needed it. It's not like there's any guys that maybe have some nagging injuries that could have used an extra day's rest. I think things are still evenly matched, and a lot's going to be on Jeremy Bonderman tonight to be able to keep his team in it.
How can a pitcher go about trying to combat the elements?
Well, it is prime time pine tar night. I mean, tonight, a day like today, the way the weather's going to be, like you said, it's going to be cold, slick, probably a little windy. Now you throw some rain in there, it makes things really difficult on pitchers. It's tough to grip the ball to begin with. So in that kind of situation, there's a lot of different things you can do, but ultimately what you're trying to do is just get some moisture in your hand. When your hands are so cold, if you have somebody where your hands get cold easily and they get slick, you got to figure out ways to do it, whether it's legally rubbing your hands together or blowing on them. They're going to let you do. That's one way to do it. And then, of course, there's all the different options that guys try to do sneakily, whether it be pine tar under the hat. I've seen guys put extra hair gel in the back of their hair, so when they start sweating, they can pull a little off. There's just a lot of different things. Firm grip, pine tar, and again, it is cheating because it's against the rules, but it's not cheating in the sense that it's going to make your pitches do anymore. It just kind of gets you back to what it feels like to pitch in July, which is kind of, and it makes it kind of an even playing field. But there was a reason why they put those rules in there back in the early 1900s. I wish that they would maybe consider pulling those back because it's such a difficult situation. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime sooner. We're going to see guys with the big pine tar patches on the side of their pants and just kind of rubbing the ball like they kind of did in that movie 8 Men Out with Eddie Seacott. So I don't think those days are coming anytime soon. But it's difficult. It's really difficult to keep a steady grip on the ball, and hopefully the guys, they let you blow on your hands when the weather's cold. They don't let you do it when it's warm, and that's one thing you can do. You heat your hands up, maybe with a hydroculator pad, the things that you use to heat up the rest of your body, whatever it takes. Gloves in between innings. I mean, guys will do whatever they have to do.
It's amazing. He may not hit 40 home runs a year, but he does everything else that really gets a team moving on.
Yeah, home runs for me are not what defines an MVP by any means, because you can certainly hit ones that aren't big. I mean, you got to do it all. I have a hard time, for me personally, with a DH, because he's not on the field. I mean, part of the game is playing defense, and it's not his fault that he plays in the American League. Certainly Ortiz would probably be playing first if he was in the National League somewhere, and then I think he'd be a stronger candidate. But I think the position that Derek plays, he's not a corner outfielder. He's a shortstop, and he knows he's involved in everything that's going on besides a pitcher and catcher. I mean, he's the next guy that's involved in everything. So the numbers are huge this year. You talk about those RBIs, 97, the most he's had in probably about 6 or 7 years. Huge year. 34 stolen bases on top of that. I mean, he's doing everything. He's playing great defense. The 343, that's a big number. It's a hard number to ignore, and I don't see how he does it. One thing in general about the MVP, though, I'd like to see it expand a little bit beyond. It's just the writers. Is that correct? It's just the Writers Association that votes this, and with all the different media you have now and how many people are involved in watching these guys every day, I'd like to see them expand a little bit, because I don't see how, for some reason, you have a bad relationship with the media that should affect anything that goes on as far as who wins the most valuable player. And that seems to be also the case that Ortiz was taking some flack for what he had said, and it seemed very uncharacteristic for him at the time. Yes. And but that shouldn't affect it. What he said, he could, as far as I'm concerned, he could be an absolute jerk, but if he's the best player in the league, he should win the most valuable player. It's about what you do on the field.
Did you ever cross paths with Leyland in your business?
Never play with him, but I have a really interesting story, at least I think an interesting story about him. It just kind of, his character and reflecting what kind of guy he is. We've seen it here. You can see it in his interviews, and obviously a guy who really cares about his players. But I was playing for the Astros in 1998, and he was the manager for the Marlins, and I had a rough game and an incident in really bad weather where I hit a player in the face with a pitch. It was awful. Craig Counsellor broke his jaw, and it was just a really difficult moment for me, and obviously for him, and just one I don't talk about too often. But I was upset, and I was a little shaken by it, and it certainly obviously wasn't intentional. I had no problems. It was just a pitch that got away from me. The next day, Jim Leyland had come over to me and found me in their dugout and wanted to talk to me and make sure that I was okay. And I'm thinking, man, I just knocked one of his really good players out here for a while, the rest of the season, and the manager comes over and sees and wants to see how I'm doing, because he knows that sometimes things like that happen. I mean, guys let up a big home run or do something, and they just lose it. And a lot of guys, you talk about like Ankiel losing it over, whatever the mental situation may be, and some other guys in the history of the game. you're worried about whether or not they can come back and pitch. And it was, I'll never forget that, because when guys, take the time to invest a little bit to see how you're doing, that you'll always remember those kinds of things. And I thought it was, a real reflection of what kind of guy he is and what kind of character, that he would take the time to come out and actually make sure that I was okay after, just an awful night.
While first base might be the easier the positions to learn on the field, I mean, there's certainly, it's not cake. You don't just walk out and play first base.
No,
right?
Absolutely not. I think that's an assumption a lot of people make, and you're right. It's not that easy. He didn't seem all that comfortable over there. He dropped a couple balls, and maybe he just doesn't, maybe he feels embarrassed by it. He just doesn't want to go through it and hurt his reputation of being a good player and over there and struggling, and maybe he feels like he'd be hurting the team. And he sees that he doesn't fit, and who knows? I mean, what if they decide we move some other outfielders? Possibly, and not that any of those guys are really going anywhere. It's certainly not going to be one of the big three. But if Cabrera, for some reason, I mean, obviously this guy's got some value and he could bring some pitching. If he brought somebody good in a package deal, and who knows what's going on with Alex and where he's going to be next year and everything else. I mean, possibly maybe they could make it work. I don't.
That's a good point.
You never know if somebody gets moved, or maybe they wait. I mean, the Yankees would probably wait this out as long as they can. They have him. They're not pressed to move him. The deals are going to be on the table. They're not going anywhere. Why not wait till the end of spring training? What if somebody goes down? What if you have an injury, whatever it may be, Matsui's, something pops up with him, or Damon, or whoever it may be, or even Cabrera, there's not a rush to do this. I don't see why there would be. You might as well wait. He's under your control. And the deals, if the deals are for young pitching, if you're only replenishing with some prospects possibly, as opposed to a frontline major league guy, what's the rush? You might as well wait.